Hey, how you all going? It's Jai, that Aussie metal guy here with Crank.com and with that metal station out of the US. And today I'm getting to have a chat with Bulletproof Messenger. We've got Voley, Chad, and Marcus up in here. Would you guys mind introducing yourselves?
Yeah, so Voley Martin, guitarist and I guess producer in the band. This is my studio, so everything kind of happens here, at least lately.
All the magics.
All the magics.
I'm go ahead, Chad.
Go ahead, Chad.
My name's Chad Saliga. I play drums for Bulletproof, and I love puppies.
Yeah, don't we all?
My name's Marcus Cleveland. I'm the lead singer, and I love Chad. And I miss your house, buddy.
I missed you.
Yeah, we're coming up there, man. Next month. I want to pet the lion. No, what is it? A cheetah?
The
panther. The panther.
The leopard.
The leopard.
You have to get it right one
Panther,
point.
leopard, lion, cheetah, whatever.
Whatever it is.
Kangaroo.
Whatever you have.
Drop bears.
There you go.
Bunyips. We got to go to the Aussies here.
Get some kangaroos.
Some kangaroos. For the uninitiated guys, can you tell us a little bit about who BPM are, Bulletproof Messenger? Because I know you have been around for a long time. I think you've kind of just first single in 10 years. But can you tell us a little bit of a backstory about you guys?
Oh my God, this is way too much for anybody to really be interested in. But we started 2002, 2003, and we're a totally different band from what we were back then. But we put out 2 albums. First album just kind of came together on our own, and me and Marcus, the only 2 original members on the phone call right now at least. So first album came out 2006. We wrote that in our basements essentially before we had any kind of production skills. And then I was in flight school for the Army when these guys signed up for a $50,000 contest to record our next album, like right after we finished our first album. And I was like, guys, like, what are you doing? Like, we don't even have any songs. So like, what are the chances we're going to reach $50,000? I was like, all right, good point. And then we reached it in like 6 months. And so we had a mad rush to record the second album. And that came out in 2009, and then we played a bunch of shows, did a little bit of light touring, and then like after that, like probably 2013, I deployed again, and that kind of killed all the momentum. So from then on, it was kind of like we really didn't do much at all, and we're all kind of like different parts of the state. Chad lives in Pennsylvania, Marcus lives in the city right now, but I live out on Long Island. If you're familiar with the New York kind of geography there. Our bassist lives upstate, a couple hours upstate, and we got another dude in the city, and then another guy lives in Brooklyn. I think he's in Mexico right now, though. So, yeah, it's kind of we're all divided up in different places, but so now, pandemic kind of hit, and we all kind of got back together a little bit, had some beers in the city after hanging at Chad's house, working with his other band, Walking with Lions, and Marcus and I got some drinks. And showed him some of the songs I was working on, and he's like, "Holy shit!" And let me back up a little bit. So we didn't talk for like a couple of years, just because like I was sending him stuff, and he's like, I don't, like I just thought he wasn't interested. But I guess our phones weren't connecting. I wasn't getting any of my text messages, and I wasn't getting any of his stuff. So
he thought I hated him after 15 years of knowing him.
Well, I'm like, he's tired of me, whatever. It's pretty easy to happen.
But it's easy with life to kick your ass a bit, and before you know it, it's 10, 15 years later. It's just you kind of start doing other things. You got family, and as you're saying, you're in the Army, and it's kind of a little hard to keep up with things sometimes. And before you know it, 10, 14 years have passed.
Yeah, you ain't kidding, man. It's so. But I just, I'd given up on trying to contact him for a while, so I just wrote a ton of instrumental songs and ended up linking up with him, and then he's like, dude, what the fuck, why have you been talking to me? And like, oh, you're not answering my text. And he's like, and we fixed the phones like right there at the table in the city, and like they started connecting with each other. It's like, holy shit, like that's really what was happening over these past few years. So then the pandemic hit like right after that, and it was like right in that interim time that he came out to the studio, like out to my house on Long Island. We started recording songs, and then Marcus, you could probably talk a little more to that, because your job basically said, what, like, don't come in?
Yeah, like literally, Vol sent those songs over, and I want to say it was about a month of just going back and forth. And then I got the call essentially saying that everything's shutting down. So it was like, look, you don't have to come and work anymore. And to me, it was exciting. One, because we were like kind of preppers and I'm down with the end of the world 100%. And two, because we could spend time together writing music again. And we literally did. And it's the like week-long straight stint, which is the output of what's happening right now. So literally a year ago, essentially now, we were wrapping up his first set of 5 songs. And to have it happen that quickly was completely surprising. And to have us have grown as musicians, as people, given that we stopped talking to each other like high school girls that couldn't get in touch or respond to our freaking text messages. But once we figured that out and got our balls back, it was almost immediate that, it's like riding a bike. So we haven't looked back since. And yeah, thank God for the pandemic. It's not fucked up.
So what was that process like when you were recording that? Tell us a little bit about getting back in at the start there when all this kind of hit and recording that music. What was that like? Who'd you record? Where'd you do it?
Well, so I was just like, I had a goal that like, because I was kind of fed up. I didn't have any singers to work with. I'm not a great singer. I mean, I can kind of carry a tune and write melodies and stuff, but I need a singer to work with to actually like finish a song. So I've got all these songs sitting around for a long time, and getting Marcus back into the fray. Like I had all this energy. I'm like, I'm gonna write, like I had a goal to write 100 songs in like the span of like a year. So I was like, I'll just take the year, write 100 songs, and like just try to like do as much as I can in a day and sit down and like between I came up with this like MIDI writing method. I just like use all MIDI instead of like choosing a guitar, or because but I don't know if you're a musician, probably, right, Jai? Like you have to figure out what kind of guitar you want to use, because I got so many like bunch of guitars, are the strings fresh, I got and then like I'm gonna have to re-record it later anyway, but like what mics am I going to use, what amp am I going to use? It just starts like you get option paralysis. So I'm just like, do everything in the box with MIDI, and it's quick, and I can write a song between like 4 to 6 hours, and it's like pre-mixed almost. It's still a demo, but it's like not, it's pretty good, close to the finished product. And like, so I had like 20 or 30 of these when I met up with Marcus. And so like, this is his first time hearing any of these for a long time. And like, he seemed kind of blown away by it. And he was like, holy shit, these are awesome. And just automatically sparked some inspiration in his head. And he's like, within a day or two, he came back with like a bunch of melody ideas, and I had a lot of my own too anyway, because I had been listening to him for a long time. So like, it was cool to hear his fresh take on it. And then I got my own ears back on it after hearing his stuff. And then after getting together, he came out to my house and we just knocked out a bunch of these songs in the span of a week, and it worked out really well.
One of the things where, because this thing, it's so tumultuous, obviously there's a lot going on earlier last year, that it was really conducive to writing, for sure. I mean, in terms of being locked at home and just the overall like political discourse that was going on at the same time, it was nonstop lyrical, like bouncing things off of Voley without any problem.
Yeah, well, 2020 seemed perfect for songwriters and people writing lyrics, because I chatted to a lot of bands as well that did the same as you. They kind of recorded this music as the pandemic kind of hit. They're like, what the fuck can we do now? Touring's off the cards. Let's just create some music. And then it's a matter of, once you created that music, to sit on it and wait for the right time to release it as well, because you want to be able to release it, I suppose, when there's that you can play live on the cards. You don't want to kind of release an album off into the ether and then not have the opportunity to tour it or play music to crowds, because it's a big part of being the band as well, and getting your merch out there and your music to a bigger audience.
Totally. Yeah, I mean, I did, when I came into the picture, I actually taught Voley drum lessons a long time ago. And he hit me up, wanted to take some lessons. So I started showing him stuff on the drums, and he has quite of a drive to come to me. So I'm like, well, 1 hour is going to go like, hey, what's your name? How long you've been playing? See ya. So we hung out for most of the, what did we do? Like a 4-hour lesson? Well,
I was just like, yeah, I mean, let's hang out, man.
we hung out for a while.
Big fan of Chad's for a long time anyway, for like a lot of his other stuff.
Until he heard me record. But no, he started taking lessons with me, and then he was like, do you mind listening to my band? And I was like, yeah. So I'm picturing it, he's the drummer. That's why he's there. And he's like, well, I play a play all the instruments. you know, somewhat. And I was like, all right, well, send it to me. I was like, why are you taking drum lessons? Like, this stuff is amazing, bro. And then we became really good friends just through those kind of lessons and just trading it, you know, stories of bands and stuff like that. So we connected, and then later on, I had this band called Walking with Lions, and I had Voley kind of, you know, he's producing it and engineering it, and got me up and running with the little studio right before the pandemic hit in March.
Yeah, it was a
So
good
I
time.
had my whole band here. I had Voley here. My parents were here because they just bought a house in Cleveland, Ohio, but they couldn't move in until the next month. So I had an animal house of people. And so we're trying to knock out as much as we can through this pandemic. And then Val's like, do you mind laying some drums down for me? And so what he did was he downloaded this software, and he was literally recording me from his house, from my house, drums.
Wow.
So we were never in the same room recording these drums. And I think I didn't even meet Marcus yet till later.
No, you
after
didn't. You
we
didn't at
started
that point.
talking to him. And then we brought Marcus in to come and like sing some stuff for our band Walking with Lions, because we were looking for a singer. So it's just intertwining in the ways they did. But Marcus is a true talent, and you know, Jesse and Scuba Steve and all the guys. And Val is the brains behind the monster, but when he sends you drums, he's not like koo ka koo koo ka. His stuff is like, can I take a lesson with you on just drumming? Like, he programs it, and then you got to compete against the machine, right? So some of the bass lines might sound like Seinfeld, where it's like so like perfect, and you're like, how am I going to play that? So he's pushed me a lot, and I've put a lot of holes in my walls. But I guess that's the beauty of a band, right? It's like the love, hate, love mentality, where it's like, I fucking hate it, but I love it. And it's always good for a challenge. You know, we're doing a song right now that he programmed to Phil, and it's like, yeah, that's great if you had 20 arms that could play that fast. But so he's always pushing me as a drummer, which I always appreciate, because it doesn't make you lazy, and just it's great to have all ideas on the table. They might not be all the greatest ones, but it's also great to have ideas of, okay, how would you approach this drum beat? I would approach it differently. So you got to, you know, put your pride and ego on the shelf and just sit back and let's do what's best for the song.
Yeah, and it kind of almost seems like the way you're talking that the COVID was a fucking pain in the ass, but it was also helped get you guys back together and fucking working together as well. And being that you're all over the country in different places, that finding out and being able to record music, as you're saying, you there and Voley over there, and make this music, but still be where you are in your hometowns, and that kind of seems that it has helped with the outlook of the band going forward.
Yeah, I mean, even with the pandemic and excluding Bulletproof Messenger and Walking with Lions, I got and did another record called Weapons of Anew that I've been playing with. I'm like playing with everyone at this point, but I guess that's when they start knocking on my door. They're like, all right, we ain't doing anything. We don't have a drummer. You want to do it? Okay.
Yeah,
What happens when you're a fucking sick drummer, dude? Everyone wants to use you.
Yeah, well, you got to tell us a little bit about that project, Walking with Lions, because I'm really interested. I'll be checking that straight out as soon as I get off here, dude.
Yeah, we did one song at Voley's place, what, 2 years ago? Well,
That was 2017, I think, dude.
was it really that long?
Time flies, man.
Yeah.
And we were really proud of it. But again, we're in the same kind of boat with like Bulletproof, where it's like we're all over California, Minnesota. The guitar tech for my other band, Black Star Riders, he was guitar teching, and so I grabbed him. It was like, we got a smorgasbord. We should just start a football team instead of bands.
Yeah.
Well, if you're setting up a tour,
the worst
Chad, you could
football
just
team
get all
ever,
your
but-
bands together, man.
Right? It's so it gets confusing, but We're definitely still doing Walking with Lines. I'm doing Weapons of a New, Black Star Riders, Bulletproof Messenger, and hopefully Justin Bieber. But the thing that I started doing was I had a good friend named Shim who was in a band called Sick Puppies, and he kind of did his solo thing. He's from Australia.
I've heard of Sick Puppies.
Yeah, awesome band.
I think I've seen him over here many a year ago, dude.
Amazing person. So he hit me up, and again, right in the nick of time, I had a studio thanks to Val, and he was like, "What are you doing right now?" I'm like, "Well, Shim, obviously nothing. I would like to do something." He's like, "Well, I got this song. It's like a pandemic song." I'm like, "Wow, I haven't heard one of those." Right? So he was just doing it for fun, and like, I think it was going to a charity or something like that for like all the doctors and nurses on the line, you know? So I was listening to it, and I'm like, man, Voley's done me so many solids, and Voley is such a good mixer, engineer, just mindset. I wish he wasn't in this room because now I just blew up his ego. But he really. So I brought him to Shim, and they started becoming friends. So Shim started getting him on Twitch and this whole technology. So Voley's been doing Twitch and stuff like that, and recording out of his studio, working with Shim. And so he started networking in that kind of thing, because when you start networking, it really becomes a small world in the music business. Everybody knows somebody, you know? So I've been trying to, you know, network Voley and just trying to get him in, because he really is. I mean, he's one of my great friends, but man, that guy has true talent in so many different facets. And I was just like, yo, mix his stuff. So he's been doing Shim stuff now. So we're just like, just all over the board. It should just be called ADD than Bulletproof Messenger.
That's good, man. Drummers are underrated, man, because I've chatted to quite a few drummers like yourself, Chad, that have been in 4, 5, 6 bands, just going all over the place, dropping in guest spots. I know there's a drummer over here in Australia, Dave Haley, who's just unreal. He's in like so many great Aussie metal bands that they can play these different styles of drums for that band. They don't go into it like, you know, and play 100 miles an hour just because they can. They play specific to the band they're working with, kind of like what you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, I go with the mentality of like, once I can say that, not to be like in an arrogant way, but I think I developed a sound that has been on records that everyone can relate to now, and when they hear me, they go, "Oh, that's Chad on the drums." So that took years to develop. So once you create an identity, it's like, you know, God rest in peace, Eddie Van Halen. You could put him in Slipknot, it's still going to sound like Eddie Van Halen, whether he's in Slipknot, because he has that identity, right? So that's kind of what I try to do, is I try to put my stamp and say, okay, this is what makes me me. If that's what you want, then this is what you're gonna get. Then there's some people that was like, well, I'm not feeling that, but maybe like this. And it's like, then it takes you out of your comfort zone, and you don't start sounding like you. And then you got to try to play nice in the sandbox, and you got to go, okay, well, what can I do in a professional manner than just to be like, well, I sold this many records? Because it just doesn't work that way. You're going to lose people. So again, it's always a learning experience. And I am super blessed that I spent, you know, man hours and shedded all different genres, where I could go and do a death metal thing. I could go and play funk. I could go and do a jazz gig. I could do a Latin gig. And the more versatile you are, like in this pandemic, it really doesn't work. But if we were still like 100% open, if I came home and all I play is metal, and metal's all been taken up by all these great drummers, I'm going to be sitting home. But if I can play country, I can go do a country gig until my band figures out what's going on.
Yeah, well, that's a sign of a great musician, to be able to jump in between various genres. Like, I'm a mad metalhead, but I love rock. I love blue. I've been even getting into bluegrass music, funk music, folk, classical music even, man. You got to take in all sorts. It's about being a fully rounded musician as well.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I think in the pandemic, I started opening my horizon, no pun intended, Bring Me the Horizon. I really never listened to them. And then I just fell in love with the band. I was
Yeah,
like,
me
really?
too. Me too.
Was I listening to a rock with
I fell
air
in love
conditioning?
with Bring Me the Horizon because I was taking my little niece into radiation every morning because she's got a terminal brain tumor, and she's
Oh,
4
I'm sorry.
and she
That
loves
sucks.
heavy metal, man, and I was taking her into radiation every morning with Bring Me the Horizon because she loved it and that was what she wanted to hear. So I downloaded a heap of their albums, bought their albums, put them in my stereo, and was just blown away. I'm like, why the fuck haven't I given this band more time? And that latest EP they dropped, that is just ripping, dude, man. I enjoyed the heck out of that.
They got 3 more EPs I was reading about, and they're all different genres, and they've already got that recorded, ready in the vault. And I've always been a fan of music heals the soul. It heals the sick. And when you don't have live concerts, you cannot feed off of your audience, and your audience can't feed off of you. And so you're at time stand still where you feel helpless, vulnerable, because what you're blessed to do, you can't do it.
Yeah.
It's like being an amazing heart surgeon, but the hospital closed down and the generators blew up. Now you can't work what you're good at. So, I think a lot of musicians went into a dark spiral where it was like, okay, this is all I'm good for,
Yeah, and it wasn't just
and
the musicians like you that got hit. It's the sound engineers, the guitar techs, all this whole
Yeah,
industry behind it. And
worst.
I'm sure America was the same as Australia. Like, they didn't care too much about the arts, but if we all didn't have music and the arts getting us through 2020 and the start of 2021, we all would have went fucking crazy. I know the mental health would have skyrocketed if none of us had arts and music.
Well, if we didn't have people like you that believe in this band, that take chances, and I think that is the key, is no one is taking chances on baby bands anymore. They're like, well, I'm just going to play what's popular, or a radio station's going to go, I'm going to play the syndicate of what I'm told to play, and I can't play anything else. And it's like, that's why music is where it's at. It's always been in a pandemic. It just is more of a reality now, because rock has kind of been shelved. I mean, you watch the Grammy Awards or anything,
Oh, yeah.
it's like we're an afterthought.
Yeah, but rock is so strong. I get really aggravated at times when I see fucking stupid posts on the social medias and all. Oh, rock is dead. Fucking mate, rock is not dead. There are so many great rock bands. Bulletproof Messenger is a great example, but there's so many other great rock bands out there that the rock scene is so strong. If people like, as we're saying, like I loved Eddie Van Halen. I love, like we'll say, Cold Chisel over here in Australia. I was chatting to, people need to stop playing those old Cold Chisel tapes or whatever the fuck they've been playing for 10 years and go and check out the rock scene today, because it is strong, healthy, and it is better now than it has ever been. It's just people got to stop being lazy, get up off their asses and fucking track down the music.
I think the problem is rock's such an ambiguous term, man.
Yeah.
Like there's so many different. When I hear rock, I just think of like heavy music, like not quite metal, but like, like really in your face drums, like in your face guitars, like melodic vocals with some screaming, maybe, but like rock. It was like, I love Dave Matthews Band, but like people called that rock when it first came out. I'm like, that's not rock. That's like some kind of hybrid fusion, like jazz, like awesomeness thing. But like there's from that to like all these different bands that are like really soft now too. So it's like I don't understand, like I don't understand genres. So I just like write, like I like writing what feels good and what sounds good. But I like to the point of like rock being dead. I just think it's so ambiguous that like people can't.
Cliche name. It's a cliche term. It's like you're saying that because you're not doing your homework.
Yeah, so many great bands coming out right now that like probably nobody know about. That like Chad was just talking about Normandy. Like, fucking love that band. Dayshell's another one of our favorite bands. Like, and like, they got tons of plays on Spotify. They got a lot of following, but like probably most people have never heard of them because they like.
You're not going to see them on a Nike commercial or anything like that. But one of my favorite bands, and I've had the pleasure to actually hang with, is Karnivool from Perth.
Yeah.
Us too. We opened for them a few years ago. Well, a few
I
years ago.
love Karnivool, man.
In front of 20 people, and they were the tightest band I've ever heard in my entire life.
Karnivool
And they
are unreal.
they were just made of like blood, sweat, and tears. You can see that band. Obviously, Ian was completely hammered, and it was like, I need a Foster's,
Ian Kenny.
you know. But
Yeah.
the dude was totally tipsy and just murdering it like it was sober. It was like in his DNA. And I'm like, there's 20 people here, and this is the best band I've ever. I mean, dude, they were as tight as like Tool, and they
Yeah.
were playing
Yeah.
at some bar
Uh,
around my neck of the woods, and the sound isn't the greatest, but whoever was doing front of house, he should be a member of that band because he made them sound like the record. And I was a huge fan of Sound Awake and Theamata,
Yeah.
and I fell in love with that band on an accident, just going down a wormhole. Like I found Normandy and Bring Me the Horizon on YouTube. And Pandora is great because you play that genre, it just starts playing all these bands, and you're like, where have I been?
yeah.
Like, why aren't these people seeing the light of day? It's like our song Ghost. Like, it's a great song. I'm not saying it because I played on it and I'm a member of the band. It really is a great song, and Voley hit it out of the park. But to me, no one takes chances anymore. And it's like, if you don't take that chance, you don't know if that's going to be the next Hugh Hefner.
Yeah. Yeah, well, Karnivool are huge here in Australia, as you're saying. And Ian Kenny, he also, Birds of Tokyo was another band he's in.
Yeah.
If you haven't checked
Yeah,
them out,
Birds of Tokyo was a great band.
They're
yeah.
funny. I heard them playing in the supermarket. I'm like, is that Ian Kenny? I'm like, that sounds like. I'm like, holy shit! And then like that was the first Birds of Tokyo song I'd ever heard. I'm like, interesting. I'm like, this is cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
And
cool
there's
he's
an-
got to play with them, man, because they're fucking big over here.
Yeah, they're fucking awesome. Those guys are great.
Eclectic Monicure, I think they're from Switzerland or from somewhere around in that vicinity. And I did a festival, and it was like a plethora of all different genres when you do those festivals overseas. And I fell in love with this band. I'm like, where were you guys? I've never even heard you in the States. They're like, yeah, we've never been to the States. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And then you feel sorry for all these music. I mean, Bulletproof Messenger should be a signed band. If I had the money, I'd sign. Well,
Yeah.
I'd sign us. I guess no. If send some, you know. So all I can say, if people are listening, is give bands a chance.
Yeah.
You know, like everyone's entitled to their opinion, but listen to the hard work we put into these songs. It's not like easy anymore.
Yeah.
You got to know marketing, which Voley does a lot of research on. He
Yeah.
talks to people. He's always involving his brain to something that can entertain theory and thought and to build wisdom in the music business. Me, I just hit cowbells. So I've been doing
Side
it
bells.
for 25 years professionally.
And giant bass drums.
Yeah, but bass drum
Side
too.
bells.
I'm like a Mumford and Son. I could do that gig.
Yeah. Okay, we'll talk
Weird.
about the latest single, The Divide. Can you tell me a little bit about that track lyrically and musically, man?
Marcus could hit the lyric aspect.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, lyrically, it's, you know, more about the emotional divide between people, and also just being locked up inside, you know, across the street from your neighbor. At that point, there's a lot of sort of innuendos around being stuck at home and just being afraid to leave the house, basically. But, you know, it's not like it just applies to COVID. There are people that like lock themselves up emotionally, or like myself, don't have many friends outside of my band, and it's just sort of, you know, affected people differently, especially if you're kind of already used to being secluded.
I think the overall arching vibe though, and at least partially for me, like, cause some of the lyrics you put in there, like, you know, going out to the bars, like feeling like you're 21 again, like it's just like nostalgic a little bit in a sense, and getting back to like the times where like we used to be able to do that kind of shit, and like, you know, and not be so divided, just be like face to face with other people, because that's where I want to get back to, you know. And that's kind of like the point of the song to me, is getting back to all that stuff, and getting over this stupid petty like fucking divide that we have in this country and in the world right now. I mean, like I've been one of my day jobs is a pilot. I'm flying all over the states, and so I get to see people face to face while most people are like locked up, and like, you know, it doesn't matter like what your ideology is. Most people get, you know, I think social media is like a fake way of doing business and interacting with people. So it just has this way of dividing people. Like when you're face to face, it's harder to like hate somebody, you know, like, so you end up like having a lot more in common with people And I think people are forgetting that right now in this time, that like, you know, because there's a lot of hate you see being thrown around on the internet and social media. And like once you're in the same room with somebody, it's a lot harder to you know, hate on them. And like you end up having like a lot more in common with people than you actually realize, even if like you're opposite, like everything, you know? So that's one thing I've been able to keep in the front of my head this whole time. And it's helped a lot.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
go with the golden rule: do unto others as you would want to be done to yourself.
yeah. And there's too many people sitting behind the computer saying shit that they wouldn't say to your face, as you're saying there,
Yes.
Voley. Like, you know, some dude.
Keyboard warriors, man.
You got a troll that plays Call of Duty and eats bonbons and goes, these guys suck. The drummer can't even play. He's got a mohawk or don't. You know, it's like,
Yeah.
if you got nothing good to say, don't say it at all.
Yeah, that's where I'm like too, man. Like I don't get into that whole negativity that I see some of the fucking other media do. For me, I love this scene and I do this from a place of love and positivity. So everything I'm covering, I'm going to be talking up. I'm going to be doing the right thing by them. And I genuinely love it, because if there's something I don't like, I'll just do what I was growing up and taught to do. Just shut my mouth and keep walking and keep my opinions to myself, because opinions are like arseholes. Everyone has one. Not everyone wants to see it.
But they all stink.
I know.
I want to see it. I'm weird though.
Yeah. So where's the best place we can get along and support Bulletproof Messenger? I notice you're on Bandcamp Friday. Get along if you can. Go buy the album, everyone, because it does really help support them. But where else? Where's the best place we can get along and as a fan support you guys?
Yeah, I mean, we're going to be embracing the social media aspect, and we're going to be releasing songs for hopefully as long as we can. You know, like this is just the start of like a consistent release schedule, and we're kind of slowly getting back up and running. But I think YouTube and Spotify are going to be our two main avenues, and like we got a merch store that we just put up too, and we're going to be releasing like more designs and stuff. We're all about the community, so like we want to try to create more of a community around the music, and like I think now more than ever, it's like this song is just a song. Like, and a lot of people like want if they don't know the band and or if they meet the band and they don't like the band, then like the song probably ends up like sucking for them later on. So I think it's more important to kind of show your personality as a group of who you are, and create a community around it that people could like get around. And like a song is it's kind of like a cheap thing now. Like you know, it used to be like, yeah, it's something you own. Now it's just something that's out there that anybody has access to. So I think the bar has been raised of having to find ways to connect with fans and have them connect with you. So I guess to shorten that answer down a little bit, just go find us on Facebook, engage with us, talk to us. You know, we have a merch store. If you like our stuff, please buy some stuff because it helps us out. We're probably going to start a Patreon. We're not really a big fan of the we do have a Patreon. We're not really a big fan of just like, hey, donate money to us. Like we want to like create some kind of value for people that are listening to us. And so like any you know, we're up for like, you know, we were talking about Shim before. Shim's been doing this Twitch channel where he writes and has his fans come and they write with him. So
which is cool.
We're kind of looking to do like more stuff like that, like have the fans involved in the stuff that we're doing. And if they have ideas and they have like, you know, what do you want to hear? What do you like? You know, like what, so the more you're involved with us, the more we'll be involved with you. And so just hit us up on Facebook. What's that, Chad?
You got to treat your band like Burger King. You got to find out what sandwiches they like and make them be a part of saying, what do you want for our next sandwich? And if you can make your fans engage with you that way and then be a part of you, then just like worship you, then I think that is what people need in a new era of bands following that kind of genre. It's like you got to really engage with your audience and make them feel like they're in the band than away from the band and just a fan.
Yep.
Yeah. And it is important for people though. You got to work those things too. But I think it's also important besides the streaming. And as you're saying, it's like a single's a single. But for old school people like me, music is fucking everything. If I love a band, I will go buy their album. And, you know, I'm always going on, yeah, Spotify's great. And it's great to get the Spotify listens up. But fuck Spotify sometimes. If you love the band, get out there and support them as well. You buy merch. Like, I was blown away by you guys. I come across you guys and I hadn't heard you, and I was like, fuck, dude, wish list. Got both your albums in there. I'm going to be buying them, hammering them on my show, man. The Divide's the latest single. It's an absolute ripper, man. You got some.
Dude, thank you so much, man.
Means so much to us, dude. Thank you.
Yeah, dude,
Really.
it's fucking really cool. I'm really glad I come across you guys. I will be going checking Black Star Riders, Weapons of a New, Normandy, Walking with Lions, man. You've given me a nice little list to get through, guys.
Homework.
This has been an absolute pleasure. And hit me up when you got more music. Always down for a chat. This has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for joining Crank and That Metal Station. Do you have any last words, shout outs, or thank yous you'd like to add in?
I mean,
we're Crank.
Yeah, keep listening to Crank. I'm starting to, I never heard of you before this, and this is awesome. So like, I like meeting new people and doing stuff. We got a playlist that we're making, kind of curating on our own. So if you want to hear music that we like, go follow that on Spotify. I think we're calling it BPM Fire 2021 right now. So search that out, and we're just always adding stuff, trying to find new bands that are like kind of the same level of us that like a lot of people don't maybe know about, and just try to help each other out. Like I said, creating the community. But
big
and if you really want to hear more stuff, man, if you can direct line to us, we can send you some stuff before it's released if you want to check it out and get excited.
Yeah. I'm pumped, dude. I'm looking forward to it, dude. I will be. I'll be right behind you going forward, man. So
awesome.
Yeah,
awesome.
We'll
You
send
guys
you some
like
stuff.
I was a fan of the band before I even played drums on their stuff, and the new stuff, pretty damn good.
there you go. Awesome. Thanks, guys. This has been an absolute pleasure.